Hi everyone, this is Olivia from the Alexandrienne channel, and today we are going to draw a spring daffodil dangles, which also has a butterfly. Okay, to start with, let's draw the sepals. This is just one shape with three pointed areas on it. The two on the outside are pointing out. It's a profile view of those, and the one in the center is facing you. Okay. If you're done with that, we'll go on to the first petal. You want to draw the one on top first. Start at the sepal and kind of gently curve out and up. And when you stop, go down and back in at a curve and stop about, a little less than halfway and leave that open. Now to do the bottom left petal, and do that the very same way as you did the top petal, only the opposite. Start at the sepal, go down and left, and when you get to your stopping point, go back in, curve up, and stop about, I guess about a third of the way in, and leave the rest blank. Now we are going to do the petal that would be closest to you. Start close to the sepal, not touching it. You can if you want, but in this image we don't. And start drawing out towards your right. Make a curve. So you would go out and up a little and then back down to a point. Stop. And then do the opposite, coming back in towards the sepal and stop when you get just about to the middle of the front facing sepal. Alright, on to the next. And if at any time you would like to have more time to draw, just hit pause and I'll be right here whenever you get back. Okay, now on to the last petal. Start up by the sepal, referencing the image, and this time your petal will be going downward. Curve down and out to your left, back in a little bit to the right, and stop at the point. Now you go back up, and this time you go out to your right, and then back in a little to your left, and stop when you get to the petal that you just drew. And this time I thought I'd mention that I'm doing something just a little bit different, and I'd like to know if you like this or do not like this. I have put the entire image in the background in a very pale gray, so you have lines to follow if you want to. But I think it's pale enough that if you wanted to switch it out a little bit, it wouldn't bother you too much, I think. Anyway, so it would be nice if you'd let me know if you'd like that concept or if you would rather just have the white space. Okay, now on to the center, which is either called the trumpet or corona. And the way you do this is you draw the two outside lines first. Both of those start a little bit towards the center of the flower and then curve outward a little bit. And then they are joined together by a curved line that's ruffled. But now on this ruffle, instead of just curving in and out, which it does, it looks, when you look at them, a little more angular instead of a curve. So I've kind of made them a modified squarish circle, rounded square. Anyway, so that's why it looks like that instead of being a gentle curve, but you can make it either way. Carrying on. Next, we'll do the stem, and what you will do is start with the top. If you're looking at the top of the flower, the top line closest to the sepal, that's where you start. Go off to the left and up just for a little ways, then make a curve and swoop back down, going down and to your right a little bit, and then stop. And repeat with the other outside line of your stem, only this one starts below the one you just did, and repeat the very same process. Now we'll go on to the leaf. What you do is you start at the top of the leaf, close to your stem, and it almost looks like a very slight S-shape curve. So you start at the top, go down and then a little to your right, gently, till you get to just about where you're touching the stem, and then curve back down and in just a little bit and stop. And the easiest way to do this is to go back up where you started your leaf at the very same point, and you follow that curve all the way down. Only if you'll notice where you started, you extend out a little further than your first line. That way you have a little bit of width to your line. And when you're getting towards the bottom, getting ready to close it up, you gently move your line slowly closer to your first line. Okay, we have the entire flower. Now we are going to do the dangle part, and this time we have dots. Love the dots. Okay, so let's make our very first swirly dangly line, which is going to be on the bottom far right. And I think probably the way that would be the easiest to draw this would be to start at the bottom. That way it's easier to follow the curve. But you can do it either way. Just when you get close to your leaf, you need to try to, not perfectly, but you need to try to kind of follow that curve a little bit without touching the leaf. Okay, so we'll start at the bottom with a swirl, go out and around and down, come back up. Again, there's a lot of kind of modified slender S type curves in this drawing. So you come back up, and when you're fairly close to the flower, you want to curl around and make a pretty good size swirl. So now you're done with the first swirl. Now we want to go on and make the swirl that's on the far left bottom. And I would think the easiest way to do this one, because both ends of a swirl, is to start at the bottom, because you are going to use the swirl that you made on the first line as the same swirl that you're making right now. So this way, again, you would just start somewhere past the swirl on the line you made previously, curve it out, go up and around towards your left, and then make your swirl. It's fine to not perfectly go right alongside the line because it's the overall image that makes a difference. Okay, now we are going to do the swirl that's above the flower. You want to start above the leaf, just a little bit to the left, and it is just a pointed line. There is no swirl, starting out anyway. Go up and slowly swerve to the right and start to wrap around and make your swirl. Now we get a start on the butterfly. If you look at it, it's definitely very stylized. The butterfly body is just a swirl with a very slightly curved line. The swirl, as you can tell, is where the head would be. So it's super easy, super fast. Just make yourself a little swirl, bring it on around towards your left and down a little bit, and voila, you have a butterfly body. Now we are going to make the first set of wings, which is the set that would be closest to you, and it is just one shape. You can make it into two shapes if you like, but on this image I just have it as one. So you would start up by the head, draw your line. It's going to be pretty much a longer oval shape. So make a fairly good size oval, and you bring it back down around close to where the middle of the body would be, not touching the body but close to it, and then stop and pick it back up and go off and up just a little bit towards your left and make this oval shape considerably smaller than your first one. And then you bring it back in and join it with the butterfly body up a little bit, not at the very tail end of the body, but up just a little. And now you have your outside wings. Okay, on to the backside wings. So it's going to actually be two shapes. Now, this is one of those times when I can easily say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. When it comes to drawing the back wings of the butterfly, you would probably prefer looking at the picture than having me go through all the little steps. And why do I say this? Because I did do that. It came out so confusing, so I thought I would just go back in and say, reference the picture. It would be a lot easier, trust me on this. Okay, back to what we were doing. Now we're going to make the longest line of this design. What it really is the imaginary butterfly trail line. So it starts at the bottom of the butterfly, not touching it, a little ways out. And this would also look cute if it were done in dashes or dots, because it is, the movement of the air behind the butterfly. Okay, so you want to make just a large vertical curved shape. And try to kind of follow the curve of your image so far, with the exception of the top part closest to the butterfly that extends up a little more. But most of the shape just kind of keeps in with the shapes you've already drawn, so it ties it together. Okay, you draw all the way down to where you are about 2/3 or more down along the left side of the leaf, and you stop there. No swirl. And there you have your butterfly trail. Okay, on to the next. If you look at the very top of the image, you see what comes out as a very short line, and it goes straight into a swirl, which goes up and to the left. And that's actually part of the line that you just drew. But since we are not drawing in pencil with erasers, that sort of thing, I didn't want to start up there and then swoop it on down and around, because then you'll have a line going through your butterfly, which would not be good. Okay, so that should just take you a second. We are almost finished. Now we get to draw some dots. This first set of dots, you start between your butterfly and the butterfly trail and the swirly line below it. Go between those two, just about in the center, and start making dots. It doesn't have to be perfect, the spacing between them. You make a dotted line following your butterfly trail line all the way down and end it close to where your butterfly trail line ends. And that's all there is to that. Now we are making our last line. The first part of our last line starts at the petal that is facing down. Start at that point. And again, this is kind of like a very slender S curve shape. But you start there and kind of center it between the stem and the far right swirly line. And you make dots going all the way down as far as you can go. And they end at the intersection of the two bottom swirly lines that kind of make a V. So you get pretty close to that with your last dot. Okay, once you're done with that, this is kind of similar to what I was talking about, the swirly butterfly trail line. The same would have applied to this. This dotted line is actually behind the flower, so you wouldn't see that section that's behind the flower. So we're doing it in two parts. So now, to finish off your dotted line, go to the top petal where the point is and start your dotted line. It almost goes straight into a swirl, just a tiny bit of a curved line, and then make a little bit of a swirl. And that is it. That's all there is to this design. Yay! Done! And now, just a little bit about the colored version. If you've watched some of the previous videos I've done with these, I do a few different colors. But on this one, I didn't, because this isn't one of my fantasy flowers. This is an actual flower. It's a daffodil, even though it's stylized. And they, as far as I know, they are very limited in their color palette. So I thought I would just leave it at that instead of creating some cool other color palette, which is, of course, the yellow and the green. And then the butterfly trail, which I tend to do, I make them in a turquoisey blue color, sometimes a little variation on that, and the purple butterfly. Now, I'll talk a little bit about the color, why I chose what I chose. I made the butterfly body green, not because some butterfly bodies are green, but because I wanted to bring the green that is fairly heavy on the bottom part of this image up to the top. I wanted to have your eye travel between the two a little bit. The reason I used the purple color for the butterfly is because it is complementary to the yellow in the flower. And on the very bottom left swirl, I made it kind of a deeper orange to pick up on the same color that we used on the outside ruffled edge of the trumpet. So a lot of this has logic behind it, but you don't have to put any logic there. You just do whatever feels right. And not on this one, but on quite a few of the other images I've drawn where I have circle lines, when I go in and paint or marker them, a lot of times I will go around the little dots with the color, and that looks really good too. I didn't do it on this one, but a lot of them I do, so you might play around with that and see if you like it. One more thing to mention is I was thinking about, and I would really like to know your thoughts on this if you don't mind taking the time to respond. I was thinking about making sheets that you could print out that have the different steps on how to create these different flowers. And I was thinking about putting them on Patreon. Anyway, so if you have an opinion on that, I would really like to know. And thank you so much for watching and taking part. I hope you enjoyed this one. I would like to know. Okay, I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye. Much love. Olivia.